XXFM.
This is Access Houston on 97.9 The Fox.
Good Sunday morning. You're listening to Access Houston. I'm your host, KG Smooth. Welcoming back to the program. It's been a while since he's been on. But ladies and gentlemen, the Harris County Commissioner, Mr. Rodney Ellis. Welcome,
KG,
sir.
Been too long. It's too long, and I'm embarrassed, but I'm glad to be back.
Well, you are glad. I'm glad that you're here. And you came bearing some great news. Some good things have just happened here in the last few days that you all have been trying to do. I remember when the mayor, when the Super Bowl came, and the mayor was looking out for minority businesses, saying that they should get a percentage of all of the business that's going to be coming into the city. And now you have the men's and women's minority business enterprise. And tell us about the good news that has just happened.
Well, KG, the short of it is Harris County has agreed to do a disparity study. But if I can, I'm going to back up a second. You know, there are only 4 majority-minority states in America. Isn't that interesting?
Say that again?
There are only 4 majority-minority states
Majority-minority states, okay.
Non-white states. The first one was Hawaii. It always was majority-minority.
Right.
The second one was New Mexico. It wasn't a black thing. Might be 1% African American, the Native American population, Hispanic population. Make it a majority-minority state. The third one was California. The fourth one is Texas.
Shut up.
So a lot of people don't realize just how diverse we are. Now, the fifth state that will be majority-minority will be either New York or it'll be Florida.
Okay.
A lot of wealthy people, whites, our white friends, left New York, moved to Florida. Then when the housing crunch came, they lost their homes and moved back to New York. So both states will, in the not-too-distant future, be majority-minority. Then Illinois and others. So here's the point. Harris County is a majority-minority state. We represent what America will be like in the next 20 years.
Oh, absolutely.
People of color, various languages. I think in the Houston region, Harris County, about 150 different languages.
You think it's going to take that
dialects,
long, 20 years?
At most 20 years for the country.
Okay, for the country.
For the country.
Gotcha.
Texas is already there. Harris County is already there. But here's the point. With our diversity of being an asset, and it really is an asset for us, we got to figure out how to come into that last phase of Martin Luther King's struggle, how you integrate the money. There's a very distinguished study that came out of all places, Rice University's Kinder Institute in 2016. And here's what it said. In terms of disparities in this region, the study found that between 1980 and 2010, Harris County's percentage of high poverty census tracts more than quadrupled to 39%. That's nearly double the national rate, which is 20%. And then when you break it down, the average white household income, medium household income by race in Harris County, $61,000 for whites. $61,000 for whites, and $71,000 for whites, $43,000 for African Americans or blacks, and for Hispanic or Latino households, $47,000. Now that's a disparity. So how do you eliminate it? Really, it's about education, it's about training, it's about business opportunities. The city of Houston, going back to 1984, created an ordinance, a policy for minority and women-owned businesses to get a piece of the pie. Harris County did not do that. School district eventually did it. The community college has a program where they take race into account and gender, not as a quota, simply as a goal.
Okay.
So you look at where you are and say, can we do better? That was a lawsuit that came about as a result of mainly cities around the country that had black mayors creating programs like this. Maynard Jackson was the granddaddy of it. In fact, when Maynard Jackson was mayor of Atlanta, he stopped Hartsfield Airport. He stopped the bulldozers and the trucks out on the runway. He said, either we are going to integrate the money or we will not finish this airport. He just stopped it. Bold, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that led to Atlanta really becoming, in many ways, the mecca for African-American owned businesses in this country under Maynard Jackson.
And what years were that?
Oh, Maynard ran for the U.S. Senate. Interesting story. Ran for the U.S. Senate against, I think, Talmadge Heflin, maybe when I was in college. and he lost, but he won Fulton County. He won the city of Atlanta.
Wow.
So then they
You're bringing
said,
it all back. I was like,
yeah,
okay,
Doc,
so
hey,
now.
I know politics like you know music and sports. You got me? I know the politics. But Maynard first ran, bold, out of nowhere. I came out of high school 72. I want to say Maynard Jackson might have run for governor of Georgia. Your listeners can Google it in. Mid-70s. Ran for governor in Georgia and lost, and then turned around and ran for mayor of Atlanta. They've never had an African-American mayor. He won. And then he was a big, tall, handsome, light-skinned guy, you know, kind of what they call the Louisiana hair, you know, but he went in fire-breathing dragon, you got me, and created what is now considered, in many ways, still the mecca of black business opportunities. Harold Washington in Chicago was a big part of that when he became mayor. We really followed that lead in Houston. We looked at what's going around the country. Then the contractors, our friends with the white contractors groups, filed a lawsuit challenging these programs around the country. They won a lawsuit. It's called a Croson lawsuit in Richmond, Virginia. You couldn't even guess what it was over. Some toilet seats. I remember calling up a city council member when I was on city council in Houston in Richmond. I said, hey, man, he was Maynard Jackson's brother-in-law who was on city council. I said, can y'all settle this lawsuit before you blow this thing for the rest of the country? Right. He said, would you settle it, Councilman? If it was Houston, Texas, that would be left out. So the contractors won a lawsuit, and here's what the United States Supreme Court ruled. If you want to have a program where you take into account gender and race, you have to have a narrowly tailored solution to a problem. And you have to document the problem. To document the problem, you have to do something called a disparity study. It's expensive. You go back and trace over the last 5 years what you did in terms of business for your governmental entity with minority-owned and women-owned businesses. And then you have to go and track the availability. What's the pool? How many black-owned, Hispanic-owned, South Asian-owned, white women-owned, black women-owned, Hispanic women-owned businesses are in your region who could do the work? So you can see if there has been a disparate impact in terms of how they've been treated. You got me? It's like reconstructing your tax returns. Most people, if you hear from the IRS, I haven't heard from them. If you hear from the IRS and they say we're going to do an audit, you know what you say? I give up. I throw in the white flag. I'll pay. Because if you got to go back and see why you stayed in a hotel or why you charged gas or ate at, the Breakfast Club and who you were with if you didn't keep the records. So a disparity study is like going through your tax returns, preparing for audit. Okay. It's very expensive. Okay. The city of Houston did one. Now about that third one, it cost $1 million. So the only way Harris County could have a race and gender conscious program, which around this country it has been shown that unless you take into account, look and see, have the numbers, see what you're doing with women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, it's all for naught. You really don't put a dent in this disparity I talked about from this Kinder study earlier.
You're listening to Access Houston. We're talking to Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis, telling us about this disparity study. So with this, what does it mean for Harris County?
It means in about a year, when this study is completed, we piggybacked off the city study. Mayor Turner was very gracious to let the county do a interlocal agreement between the city and the county so we can benefit from what they have already pulled in terms of data on the city study, which ought to be completed in another couple of months. It'll take a year to do the county one. You know, the city's budget's a little under $5 billion for 2-point-something million people. Harris County has almost 5 million people. County spends about $5 billion. The county does not keep the numbers in terms of what we do with minority and women-owned businesses. It is at best a guess. When I got there and I asked for the numbers, I was told, well, we don't collect them. And my reaction was, well, the Russians know. What do you mean? In 2017, we don't know the numbers. I mean, where are we, under a rock? Right. But so I'm very pleased my colleagues agreed to do the disparity study. It's going to be paid for with funds from Precinct 1. That means funds that I have the privilege of controlling because you all elected me. I would have preferred the county pay for it, but I can get over that. It's important enough to me. I'll take the taxpayers' money from Precinct 1, spend $600,000. We hired a very competent young lawyer, Colette Holt, from Chicago. Maybe she lives in Oakland now. She does these around the country. She has a national perspective. She'd be interesting to have on your show at some point to educate your listeners, the millennials in particular, who listen to 97.7. Just thought I worked that little plug.
0.9.
97.9. What's wrong with me? That's what happens when you're 64. You lose a couple of numbers. But for your listeners on 97.9, the box, these millennials ought to know. Look, I started a business, investment banking firm, when I was on city council called Apex Security. Started with Jody Giles. You know Jody, Sonny Messiah's better half, other half, since Sonny's the better half, and Richard Ramirez. Our firm was black-owned and Hispanic-owned because there were minority-owned investment banking firms coming out of Philadelphia, out of New York. First black person get a seat on New York Stock Exchange, Travis Bell, give you a little piece of history. He had a firm called Daniels and Bell. And there were firms out of San Francisco, one that Henry Cisneros is now part of. It was a black-owned firm. Now it's black, Hispanic, and white woman-owned firm. It is, I think, the largest minority-owned investment banking firm in the country. But I could see what was happening, and as a $26,000 a year council member, I started my own business to do business around the country. So I traveled this country. I mean, I benefited from the seeds that Maynard Jackson and Andrew Young and Willie Brown put in place for folks, and Harold Washington. Since I couldn't do business, see, I had to move around this country. John Strozier, first African-American to be president of Cook County Board of Supervisors. These are folks who helped me. I know these programs make a difference and create more entrepreneurs in our community.
You listen to Access Houston, talking to Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis. You got to come back on the show so we can talk more.
I look forward to it.
I love politics, too.
Let's find a way. We'll find a schedule that works for you to talk about bail reform and other issues.
I want to talk about it all because, coming up this fall is very important. We've got the midterms, but the way that things are going, well, we seem to be doing okay here in Houston.
I hope you never know until the ballots are counted.
Well, amen to that one.
I just want to encourage people to register to vote if you have them, and make sure you vote. People died for us to have this right.
That's right.
And anybody who does not exercise it, you ought not be here.
Indeed. Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis, thank you, sir, for coming on.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Good Sunday morning. You're listening to Access Houston. I'm your host, KG Smooth. It is that time again of the year for the Houston Black Heritage Music and Arts Festival that's going to be at George R. Brown Convention Center this coming Saturday, August the 11th and the 12th. In the studio with me, Mr. Richard Andrews. Good morning, sir. Welcome.
Good morning. How you doing, KG?
Pretty good, man. And Nicky Ferguson, who's the event coordinator. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good. So this is wait, don't tell me. This is the 4th year of the Houston Black Heritage Festival?
Yes, this is the 4th annual. I'm so proud that, we've been able to do this event for the 4th time in the city of Houston. We are getting so much love from Houston, so much support. I feel like the city have embraced us. The community, have trusted us with this event. So we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's always a good time. And it has grown over the years. I remember the very first one. That's why I was like, wait, this is the 4th one.
Yeah, first one with mint condition.
Yeah. And then that second one, y'all had Monica. Yeah, and then last year, who was it? Eric Benet.
And Tania.
Yeah, and this year you got the vocal queen that is Layla Hathaway, also Stokely Williams, solo artist and of mint condition. He's going to be there, and on J. Paul Jr. So we mixing it up with a little R&B and Zydeco. So let's talk about the foundation. Houston, we get a lot of people that move here that may not be familiar with a lot of things. That's why, Access Houston is here. Yes. So tell us about why the Houston Black Heritage Music and Arts Festival was founded.
Okay. I was in a play called The Harlem Renaissance at the Shrine to the Black Madonna. I was in a play 3 years straight, and it kind of blew my mind. After the play, I took a trip to Harlem, and before I went to Harlem, before I went on a trip, I knew I wanted to do an event. I just didn't know the name, but I knew it would be a cultural event. But when I got to Harlem and started thinking about all the beautiful things that I was seeing, I was like, wow, Harlem is great. no disrespect to Harlem, but you know, we have some of the greatest entertainers right there in Houston. We have some of the greatest musicians. Excuse me. We have some of the greatest artists in the world as well. Some of the greatest food in the world. So I just decided to come back and work really hard to put together a sort of a Renaissance festival. But since we had a Renaissance Fest, you know, why not do a Black Heritage Fest? So that's why we created it.
That's nice. So tell me, expound more on your experience in Harlem. Such history, that borough in New York, Harlem.
Yeah, well, wow, man, it was awesome. Actually, I went on a Malcolm X tour. So I went to the Apollo. The brother that actually put the tour together, you know, took us to a lot of places. Langston Hughes' house. We went to famous restaurants. And you know, in Harlem, I had that feeling, you know, just like the Harlem Renaissance play, of that, you know, big band spirit, the poets, the authors, and you know, I really wanted to bring that back to Houston.
Yeah, that's nice. You're listening to Access Houston. We're talking to Richard Andrews and Nicky Ferguson from the Houston Black Heritage Music and Arts Fest, happening this Saturday and Sunday at GRB. Layla Hathaway, Stokely Williams will be performing, and we also got the Interactive Youth Zone. So expound on the Interactive Youth Zone.
Well, the Interactive Youth Zone, that's my baby. I am the coordinator for that event. It is Saturday from 12 to 4, and I have praise dancers, step team, live band, just a variety of singers. So it's a variety of dancers, just all different types of people that will come out and entertain.
Yeah, and so what will the kids be looking? It says interactive, so I imagine that the kids will be playing and learning some things at the same time.
Yes, we have a lot of different, like inflatables, different games for the kids to play. Just a lot of different activities. I want to name them, I forget some of them. So just a lot of different activities for the kids. So to just keep them busy.
From noon until 4. That's happening on Saturday. Yeah. So, yes. What are you all looking forward to for the festival?
Well, we know it's going to be a lot of people. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of activities. It's just going to be a blast. It's going to be a Black Heritage Weekend. And, you know, we really just wanted to promote all the beautiful things that Black people were doing in Houston. Yes. You know, I was a college dropout, and I ended up going back to school, getting my undergrad and master's, and putting together this foundation. You know, I just wanted to be the change that I was expecting from the community. So when I put all the elements of it together, it's sort of like a documentary of my life. I lost my brother with lung cancer. You know, he was 43, my oldest brother. So I added the health village to it.
Yes.
You know, I had the educational component because I struggle with education. The music and arts, I was always a big fan of music and arts. So, you know, that's like my heart. So all of this is a collective of like my life experiences. And, you know, I just want Houston to enjoy what we're bringing.
Indeed.
Yes. And can I also mention for the Youth Zone, I can't forget that DJ Layla, 11-year-old DJ, has DJ'd for the last 3 years, and she's returning again, and that's my daughter, and she'll be DJing for the youth stage.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes.
Okay. Is she good?
Yeah, she's good. Shout out to DJ Layla. Yeah.
Also, man, I have to thank the supporters, the sponsors who, you know, without their support, you know, we could not make this happen. So the city of Houston, Houston First, T-Mobile, Silver Eagle, HMAC, the Darrell King, the Principal Partnering Group. You know, Darrell King, he was one of my biggest supporters, you know, from the very beginning. So, you know, I've had a lot of great mentors. Reverend Stokes from the Shrine, Reverend Clegg, Reverend Moore. All these people mentored me, so I thank them so much for just leading me in the right direction.
Indeed. So get ready for this weekend. It's going down. The Houston Black Heritage Music and Arts Festival. They're going to have Layla Hathaway, Stokely Williams, J. Paul Jr., the Interactive Youth Zone. It's happening from 12 noon until 4. All happening at George R. Brown. Look at all of the information. They can go to HoustonBlackHeritageFest.com.
BlackHeritageFest.com, and thanks to Forward Times. We're looking for everybody to show up.
Yes, yes, indeed.
I also would like to mention that it is a 2-day event. We've been talking about Saturday to Georgia Brown, but we actually have another day, which is on Sunday, is geared to inspiration.
Oh.
And is at the Kingdom Builders Center, which is 6011 West Orm Drive, and that's Houston, Texas, 77085. That's like Orm and South Post Oak.
And what time?
And that is from 4 to 8 p.m.
Also, Sunday is a tribute to Councilmember Green, the late Councilmember Green, who was a huge supporter of the Black Heritage Fest. Mm-hmm. So we're honoring him. We're presenting a scholarship in his honor to students who live in District K to Texas Southern University. So, we're asking people to join in and support our tribute to the late council member. We just want his name to live on. He was a huge supporter. Also, August the 10th, we have a Rebuilding After Harvey campaign. We partnered with Volunteer America and Houston Food Bank. We're targeting kids and students who were displaced by Harvey. So we will be supplying them with backpacks, school supplies, food. We just want to keep encouraging and empowering our community.
Indeed. That's great. Man, I miss Councilmember Larry Green, man. Such a great spirit. So that's amazing that you're doing that for him.
Awesome.
Miss him much. Man, thank you all so much. Sunday, it is going down. Kingdom Builders.
Kingdom Builders Center on Sunday. Georgia Brown is on Saturday.
And then the event later on in the afternoon.
Oh, yeah, definitely. The volunteer day. So it's 3 days of activities. August the 10th. It's Rebuilding After Harvey. It's a day of service. Mm-hmm. August the 11th at the George R. Brown Convention Center. It's Black Heritage at its finest. Mm-hmm. And we're celebrating the essence of the African-American spirit. August the 12th, tribute to the late Councilmember Green. It's going to be a great event.
It is. It is going to be. Yes, indeed. Yes. Mr. Richard Andrews, the founder of the Houston Black Heritage Music and Arts Festival, and the lovely Nicky Ferguson. Thank y'all for stopping on.
Yes.
Thank
you so much for having us.
We appreciate all the beautiful things that you do in the community. We just thank you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And thank you for listening to Access Houston.
We'll be back with more Access Houston on 97.9 The Box.